Good morning. Welcome to a random Between the Beats. We all know that summer can be brutal, and our pets can't exactly tell us, hey, this sidewalk is too hot, or I'm not recovering well from this heat. So today we're talking with Dr. Kelly Fishman, a veterinary sports medicine and rehabilitation specialist and founder of Strut Animal Mobility Specialists. We're going to talk about hot weather, pet mobility, hydration, exercise, and how to make smart choices without buying every viral pet product that shows up in our feed. Good morning, Dr. Kelly. Great to have you on again.
Good morning, Chaz.
Where are you calling in from today?
I'm calling in from just outside of Philadelphia in Kennett Square, Pennsylvania.
Oh, nice. Hopefully it's cooler there.
Not so much.
Oh, it's probably hot everywhere. So tell us, when temperatures really climb, what are the biggest risks for dogs and cats that pet owners may not think about right away?
Yeah, so sometimes just knowing if your dog is at risk in general. So if you have a dog that's out of shape or a little bit overweight, if they have any underlying medical conditions, they may be more predisposed to heat stroke, or especially on a hot and humid day. Other things like they're older or they're younger, senior or a puppy. The
Mm.
other thing that sometimes people don't know, or maybe they do know, is that if you have a French bulldog or a English bulldog or a pug, those types of dogs are more predisposed to getting heat stroke and overheating because they have a harder time panting than our Labradors do. So, what we call a flat faced dog. And then the other one that I sometimes think about is if you're exercising your dog outside, and if it's especially a humid day, they're going to be more at risk for overheating just by being outside if it's humid and they're moving around a lot.
Okay. What are some early signs that a pet is getting overheated or physically stressed?
So one of the things that I look for is when a dog starts to pant and their panting becomes really heavy. And the reason for that is that's how dogs get rid of their high body temperature. It's by panting. They don't sweat. So if all of a sudden you look over and your dog's tongue is hanging out of their mouth, and it's what we call a spade tongue, it's really hanging out, it's really red, they're panting really hard, that'd be a sign to get your dog into an AC or out of the sun into some shade, or even cool them down in other ways.
Okay. We hear a lot about hot pavement, but how hot is too hot for a walk, or should you go by the outside temperature, really?
You know what? I go by my own feeling. So I put my hand down and I put it on the asphalt for a good few seconds. And if it's too hot for me, it's going to be too hot for your dog. So what you can do instead is just pick some grass to walk on, pick some dirt, but stay off that hot asphalt in the summer because it does get really hot.
Okay. And so the heat affects pets more that have arthritis, old injuries, and joint problems. Is that correct?
Yeah, it does. So certainly the heat can make it harder to move around. And we certainly see this in our dogs. When things get a little bit hotter, they move a little bit less. Typically your dog in the spring or fall, 72 and sunny, they have a little more pep in their step, but when it's really hot, they slow down. And then yes, that could be because their joints are a little bit more sore because some of the changes in the barometric pressure and the heat certainly does affect them.
What's the safest way to cool a dog down after they've been outside and you think they're getting overheated?
I love this question because even as a veterinarian, it could be a little bit confusing. And if you search online, there's a lot of different ways. So the best way is actually full body immersion into a cool tub. So what that means, I had a Labrador patient. He was running around a lot and he was really hot. He was panting really heavily. And what we did is we filled a kiddie pool, so just a small little pool with room temperature water just from the faucet, and let him sit on it. And then I took my hose and I just poured it over his entire body. And then I took a fan and I put the cool fan on the dog and let him cool down that way. So that is the most effective way, full body immersion in a pool and then a fan. And then there's some really cool research out of University of Pennsylvania showing that if you could teach your dog ahead of time to dunk their head into a gallon of water, that'll actually cool them faster in about 30 seconds versus that full body immersion. But of course, if you haven't already trained your dog to do that, that's not something you'd want to use in an emergency, but that's certainly something that pet parents could look to train their dog to do.
Oh, that's a good idea. Now, what if you haven't trained your dog and say there's a lot of hiking areas around here, and I was driving up the mountains a couple of weeks ago, and there were some people on the side of the road with a dog, and they flagged us down because they said they had to stop hiking because their dog got too hot and they wanted to ride to the lodge where they were staying. Would you pour your bottle of water over their head in that instance, or what's the
Yes,
best way?
I would. Over the entire body, not yeah, the head, and then over the entire body, and then put that dog in the front seat and blast it with AC. And then it's also important for people to know that heat stroke is very hard to it's very difficult to know if your dog has heat strokes. If you think your dog is hot, the safest thing to do is to take it to an emergency room and just have them double check that the dog doesn't have heat stroke.
Now, I know that you don't walk your cat and stuff, and do they self-regulate in the heat, like find some shade and just take it easy?
Yes. So, it's really funny is I actually do walk my cat.
Okay,
Like,
okay. I used to also, so I love it.
I do too. So it's funny, cats seem to be a little bit more heat tolerant than dogs do. And they certainly, I love my dogs, but I feel like they're a little smarter sometimes. And they do tend to self regulate or seek shade. And they're also not as active. And so I think that's what it is. Like that dog you were talking about, that dog was hiking,
Mm,
moving around. So he's generating heat in his body from the movement. And it's hot outside. My cat just sits there and looks at the bird.
yeah. Our cats right now, it's so hot, and they're just all laying around all afternoon. Now, if it's too hot to walk outside, what are some simple indoor ways to keep a dog active?
This is my whole business. This is what I do for a living. This is my passion. I try to educate pet parents all about dog fitness. And what that means is there are lots of exercises you could do to build a dog's strength, like dog squats or a dog plank, to build their body awareness, like walking over cushions or even walking through poles to build their body awareness. Things to build their endurance, like doing jumps, like agility jumps. So there's lots of different ways and exercises that we could build fitness. So what I tell my pet parents is if you have a dog that's used to being very active and they have lots of pent up energy, what you could do is do these exercises in your home. You don't need lots of space. You don't need any kind of fancy equipment. And if you have any questions, please visit my social media, my website, or my Instagram, because I have free videos on how to do these exercises. So
Okay.
what you could do is do some of these exercises indoors, get some of your dog's energy out. And the cool thing is, if you do exercises and you have a fit dog, they are more heat tolerant. So that's another benefit to working out.
All right. Those are good points. And we're going to let you tell where the audience can find you at the end. Let's talk about trending stuff. I guess there's a lot of it for animals as well as humans. And here's like cooling mats, vests, fans, hydration products, the fountains, all that stuff. Can you talk some about all of that, like what's trash and what's good?
Yeah, so in general, the cooling mats are fine to keep your dog cool, but they're not going to cool them down in extreme heat situations. But they're a great way to keep them cool when it's hot. So I do like them. The hydration bowls are fine if your dog is kind of picky about their water source, but you don't really need them.
Okay.
The biggest thing that I see actually, which is even just last night I was on my phone and I've just been inundated with supplements. And that's something that's so much out there promising longevity and never ending life and all those sorts of things. But yeah, I personally seen not only explosion of all those things that you talked about, but also just supplements in general.
When might a supplement be helpful and when is it just marketing? Can you tell us? And do you have access to those things on your site?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when you're kind of reading through a website, if the supplement is promising lots of things, but it's not saying what it is. So it's promising all these vague things, but you have to scroll down to the last page to figure out what is this exactly? That's a red flag. The other red flag is, or what you want to look for, is has this ingredient that's in this supplement been studied in a dog or a cat and proven to work? So, for example, a big one that I'm very excited about and I recommend a lot because it's the oldest and most researched muscle supplement in dogs is something called MYOS PET. If I go to the MYOS PET website, I scroll down and I see that there's a study in a dog showing that it can improve mobility, muscle strength in senior dogs. So I know that works. But that's something that you want to look for. That's very rare. A lot of stuff has not been proven to work in dogs. So
Mm.
that's the number one thing that you want to look for is studies showing that it works.
I have a couple more questions left for you. The best low cost thing pet owners can do probably is go to your website, right?
Yes, please. Listen, I have my Dr. Kelly's picks. On my Dr. Kelly's Picks, I have my number one joint supplement because there's lots of confusion out there. What is working? What doesn't work? I have my number one joint supplement, which is scientifically proven. My number one muscle supplement, that MYOS PET that I was talking about, that's on there. All exercise equipment, if you're into that, you want to get really into the dog fitness world. I have exercise equipment and I have a lot of free videos on how to build strength and mobility in your dog, no matter what the age. If they're young and they're healthy and you just want to get some energy out and build strength and look at prevention, or if they're aging and they're slowing down, you could still do a lot of stuff to keep them moving and keep them strong.
I love when someone else does all the research and I can just go and get whatever I need. So that's great. And I lied. I have actually two more questions now. What's the biggest mistake you see pet parents make during hot weather?
Yeah, I think that it's kind of what we already talked about is not really realizing that it's very easy for dogs to overheat. When we go on hikes, we have our water, we're sweating. Actually, humans are we're more heat tolerant than our dogs. And it's realizing that they're at home in the AC Monday through Friday while we're at work, sitting at home in a comfortable home. And then it's Saturday or Sunday. We want to go out for a hike. We want to be really active and enjoy the beautiful summer. And then we accidentally overheat them. And it's actually called a weekend warrior pattern and a type of injury thing that we see in veterinary medicine. So that's what I think is the biggest number one mistake that they make.
Oh, that's good. Thank you for educating us about that. Now, also, June's almost over, but it's National Pet Preparedness Month. And I think about this a lot with my cats. We're trying to make sure we have enough crates, in case there's wildfires out here, et cetera. If we need to get out in a hurry, what should people include in an emergency plan for their pets during extreme heat, storms, travel delays, evacuations, et cetera?
Yeah, so a lot of this is kind of obvious, but making sure that you have all your dogs, like my cat's to go kit also includes their medication. So I wouldn't have to think about it in a case of emergency. So like a week's supply of their medication is in the cat carrier, ready to go. It's easily accessible. I don't have to go into the basement and dig it out of a box. Everything's easily accessible, ready to go. Just have a little emergency kit for them. I think that's what I do. It's free to assemble. Number one thing.
All right. Thank you. Now, where can listeners learn more about your work and pet wellness products you recommend and your resources so we can all keep in touch with you?
Yeah, Chaz. So Strut Animal, Happy Dog Struts, animal.com is my website. I have my Dr. Kelly's Picks where I talked a little bit before about all my recommendations for supplements. That's there. You could also visit my social media, Instagram, Facebook, as well as a Substack I have as well, some articles to read all about dog fitness. And yeah, if you're interested in learning more about any of the supplements I discussed, like I said, my favorite one is that MYOS PET, and you can visit their website.com. And please reach out with any questions. I'm always happy to answer. If anyone ever wants to ask me a question, if I can answer it, I will.
Thanks so much for coming on and educating us, as I said, about pets and heat and all that stuff. Because I think sometimes we think, oh, the animals can tolerate heat better than us, except, yeah, you're right. They do sit in AC all day. So,
Yep, that's part of the problem.
all right. Thank you so much. And I hope you have a great rest of the summer.
Thank you, Chaz. You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was Dr. Kelly Fishman with some really helpful advice on keeping pets safe and active during hot weather, also giving us permission not to buy every pet gadget the internet tells us we need. Thanks to her for joining us, and make sure you find her, Dr. Kelly Fishman, and strutanimal.com.